There is a possibility that the St. Louis Blues will not be seeing Torey Krug. Let's talk more about it here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And a good day to you all. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk to you if Torey Krug can't play, if he can play, and of course, is Krug that big of an impact? So we have a lot to get into. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download the Gametime app. What time is it? It's game time. So let's go talk more about if Torey Krug can play. If Torey Krug can play, I could see him being in the second or third pair on the Blues this season. And, I think the thing with Torey Krug is, and I think this is the issue, people are very negative towards Torey Krug. And I think that, he is a skillful enough player where you could look at him and say, hey, if you don't have him, there would be, some impact, right? And I think last season, people also forget that Krug set single game records for assists and points by a Blues defenseman. So this was in February of 2024. Torey Krug had a career high of 5 assists in the 7-2 win over the Montreal Canadiens and getting the St. Louis Blues single game record for both assists and points by defensemen. Krug became one of the 6 Blues in history with 5 assists in a game, joining Robert Thomas, Dallas Drake, Adam Oates, and more. Krug is only the third Blue since 2003 with a 5-point outing, joining Thomas and Vladimir Tarasenko. I miss you, Vladdy, very, very much. Krug is the second defenseman this season with at least 5 assists in a game, joining Chris Letang of the Pittsburgh Penguins. With Krug and Letang, 2023-2024 became the first season in 20 years to have multiple blue liners reach that mark. Kind of a cool thing. The one thing with Torey is that he gives all honest effort every night. Drew Bannister said after the game, he's highly competitive, and we saw that tonight. Krug's performance was rare for not only the Blues, but the league. Krug's game is just the 43rd time in NHL history that a defenseman has recorded at least 5 assists in a game. Again, that is absolutely insane. Again, native of the U.S., by the way, to record. So there was a huge list on that. Some names include, you might know him, Adam Fox of the Rangers, but Mark Howe, so cool, by the way. Krug is one of 4 defensemen in NHL history with a 5-assist game in Montreal, which again, it's one of those stats where it's like, are you kidding me? Pratt's included on there, Bay Pratt, it's just so cool. 2 of Krug's helpers came on the power play where the Blues converted 3 of 5 times against Montreal. The Blues are now they did better in the power play. But yeah. Anyways, the best power plays coverage around the case, Krug said. In previous times, I think we're one of the outside a little bit too much, but now we're getting a little bit more hungry around the crease. So again, I wanted to remind you of that, for instance, because again, not only was Krug creating history, which is so cool, by the way, but it just shows you the ability that he does have and how valuable of a player he is. And I think that at times, sometimes we get into these mentalities, at least, where we're like, oh, Torey Krug, he's not that good of a player. But I do think, however, that it's something to consider. In last offseason, there was all those, rumors with him potentially going to Philadelphia, right? Getting traded to the Flyers, and he wanted no part in that. He said, I chose to stay here, okay? Obviously, he has that 7-year contract, $45.5 million, so it's $6.5 million average annual value. It's something I'm very excited about. I have kids, I have a family, a lot of things to think about. But at the end of the day, like I said, I want to be here and wear the note. We have a great locker room here, and I have a great feeling in the room this year, and I think we can turn it around quick. Now, while the Blues ended up not going to the playoffs this year, again, they were the best, worst team in the National Hockey League, which does show that they have been turning it around and they have been playing better. But I think Torey Krug really just saying, hey, this is where I want to be. This is the team that I want to grow with and spend the rest of my career with, just shows yet again how important of a player he is, how important of a person he is to the St. Louis Blues team. And I think that, Braden Shen even said, we're happy to have Kruger back. He's an unbelievable teammate. He's a heck of a player, a guy that has some fire in his belly and wants to prove people wrong. I really do like that. He didn't want to go to another organization or team where he felt like he had a less of a chance to win. Let's put it that way. We've got good pieces in the locker room, and he wanted to be a part of it. Honestly, we're lucky to have him. He's a top power play defenseman in the league. He's a great teammate, and we're happy he's on our side. And those were words of Captain Braden Shen. Now, you might be saying, Hale, he's not one of the best. Yeah, he's not at his prime, okay? State the obvious. But he does bring a lot of value, and he has been one of those players. We saw it on the Bruins. Even when we beat them in the cup final, we saw Krug play for Boston, and he is a good player, and there's no denying that. Is he being overpaid? Yes, but most people, I feel like, on the Blues are getting overpaid. But he does bring a lot to this team. So going back to what I was saying, let's go say his rehab off the ice, off the surgery, by the way, that's what I meant, went well and he's able to play. This is a hypothetical because we don't have an answer yet. Maybe you do by the time this comes out, okay? And you might be like, she doesn't know her hockey. I'm in Europe, okay? Like, I am doing this podcast. Like, I'm not in Europe doing this podcast, obviously, but I'm pre-recording a bunch of episodes. So I'm in Europe, okay? So if something does come out, I know Doug EA said after Labor Day, so expecting that to be relatively soon. Not sure on the timeline yet, but I am hoping that he is okay. You don't want surgery for any player. So all in all, if you just want me to be completely honest, completely transparent, I think that if Crew can play, you're going to have that security of knowing that the power play will be fine. You're going to know that you're getting a guy that's very capable of doing what he does, which is being a strong defensive player. While Krug maybe isn't the best two-way defenseman, I understand the concerns and I hear what you have to say. I'm not, blinded, and I am a little biased towards Torey Krug. I do like him and I do respect him. Growing up as a kid, I'm 25 now. I feel like I watch a lot of Torey Krug play, and it's something that I kind of find a little funny right now that I'm doing this podcast. I've had to be critical of Torey Krug, and again, it's just one of those things. It's what comes with the job. But overall, I think Torey Krug is a strong player. I think that he gets a lot of hate, and it does make me very upset as a fan because I think that as a fan base, um, we're not that negative. And I feel like with Torey Krug, it brings out the negativity. But he wants to be here in St. Louis. And that is number one. You want to have players that want to be with your organization. Krug thinks that the Blues are going to be a successful team that can win sooner than later. And I think with all the moves the Blues made this offseason, who's to say that they're not? And, right now he is, and I'll get into this, but, he's out indefinitely. So again, at the end of the day, what is the best possible situation? It's for Torey Krug to not need surgery. Never ever wish injury, never wish surgery, none of that. So I am hoping that he is okay, that the rehab did work, that's 6 to 8 weeks. But again, we don't know because there is no update yet. Hopefully soon. Sooner rather than later would be nice. Not even just for, the season, but just to make sure that, Torey's okay, right? That's number one. So I'm going to dive into what if he can't play. And I'm going to talk more about the injury and give you some more literature on that. But first, I'm going to tell you about my friends over at Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live event even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Sometimes I'll open up my Gametime app and I'm like, oh, the searching, all of it. It's draining and it can be tiring, right? But with Gametime picks, it makes sure that you get the best seats with the best price guaranteed. Obviously, that's the Gametime way. So it just makes it so much easier. So again, if you love the Gametime app, this is just another way to really improve your experience while using the app. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. What time is it? It is game time. So, what if Torey Krug can't play? Well, that's the question that we all want to know, right? What is going on with Torey Krug? So, let me tell you about what happened. Torey Krug has been diagnosed with pre-arthritic changes in his left ankle. The injury is a cumulative result of a bone fracture suffered earlier in his playing career. Krug will work to rehabilitate the injury through non-surgical interventions over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks, which is about now. After that time, he will be re-evaluated to determine whether surgery will be necessary. Krug is officially considered to be out indefinitely, and if surgery is required, he will be unavailable for the entirety of this upcoming 2024-2025 season. Krug is 33, and he was signed by the Blues as a free agent in 2020. Well, October 9th of 2020. Remember how the season was like all weird because of COVID? That's kind of why. Last season, he played 77 regular season games, posting 39 points, 4 goals, and 35 assists and 32 penalty minutes. Across 4 seasons with the Blues, Krug recorded 146 points, 22 goals, 124 assists, and 154 penalty minutes in 255 regular season games. Overall, he has appeared in 778 career regular season games, including Boston and St. Louis, with 483 points, with 89 goals, 394 assists, and 374 penalty minutes. So Torey Krug to me is at least very valuable. And it makes me think, I'm like, hey, maybe they signed Ryan Suter because of this, and maybe that's why they signed P.O. Joseph, right? You also have to look at other players in the Blues that have to step up. And, Justin Folk, he had 30 points with 2 goals and 28 assists in 60 games last season. And he's done a lot too, right? The thing with Torey Krug is that he is a reliable, 30 to 40 point producer. And I do believe that he won't reach that 50 point again, right? Like he did when he was with Boston. But I think under, the right situation, he can have his skills be elevated, right? He doesn't need to really be a top pairing defenseman to really show everybody what he is capable of. So if Torey Krug can't play, what else is there to say? He can't play, but the reality is that maybe that's why Suter got brought in. And I know we kind of questioned, oh, why are they bringing in Ryan Suter? This guy has like attitude issues. I thought that too. I'm like, this guy's old, 39. What is he possibly going to do? But he could be that veteran defenseman that maybe doesn't play every game, right? Maybe doesn't get the most minutes on ice, but can be that presence and to really help these younger players, right? We have a lot of young guys on defense. We have a Matthew Kessel, we have a Scott Brunovich, we have a Tyler Tucker even. So there is a lot of young with the Blues on defense. But, and we now have Broberg. Oh my goodness. See what I'm doing? That completely slipped my mind. I keep on forgetting that he's a part of the Blues now. But the Blues do have a young defense, right? You have Justin Folk, who I really want to see big things from. I'm a big Justin Folk fan, okay? And then, of course, you have Colton Parayko. So you do have a lot of players that are big necessities when it comes to the St. Louis Blues' defense, blue line. But without Torey Krug, you're going to miss that big body. I mean, Torey Krug is a big physical presence when he's on the ice. And that is something that gets a little bit overlooked when you talk about Torey Krug, right? Usually when it comes to Torey Krug, oh, he's slow. His positioning isn't there. Yeah, I can't disagree with you on that one. But at the end of the day, there is still a lot that we see out of Torey Krug that is very positive, that he does bring a lot to the ice. So, yes, I hear your point and I acknowledge you. Okay. I'm going WWE Tribal Chief. I acknowledge you. Acknowledge me. I'm getting a little delusional. But I do think that um, without his presence on the ice, you're going to notice it. It's easier said than done. I think that a lot of people weren't too happy with him. They kind of wanted him on another team. Hey, maybe he's a better fit elsewhere. Does Boston want him back? I heard it all. Okay. I read your comments. I've seen it all. I just think that the best possible outcome for Torey Krug, honestly, is for him to be able to play this season. It is. I really do not want to, and it has nothing to do with injury. It's about skill, maintenance. I just feel like it'd be so detrimental to his career, and I'm afraid of the worst possible scenario, which would be maybe a retirement. Health is most important. One, Torey Krug's health is most important. That cannot be said enough. That cannot be articulated enough. His well-being, that's what matters to me. It should be what matters to you. But if he can't play, then wouldn't it make a little sense why Doug Armstrong did get Ryan Suter? Now that I'm thinking about it more and more, I'm like, wait, he kind of got Suter as a Torey Krug replacement. And no, Suter is not Torey Krug in any way. And I'm not saying it like that, but it just is a very interesting thing to think about that the St. Louis Blues are kind of now shifting to what if he can't play based on the players they got this offseason. And again, we knew Torey Krug wasn't going to solve the problems with the Blues' defense, but again, he was a beneficial part of the Blues' defense. It's a very unfortunate situation. And I think that, again, with this contract too, I mean, 7-year, $45 million contract, no trade clause that he actually got. Well, he invoked it because he had it and then he used it. It's very obvious that Torey Krug wants to be here. And it's just really fat. It's sad. And the Blues are going to have to adjust without him if he can't play. But I mean, here's the thing. When he is on the ice, he does play quite well. And I think that he is, he's just a big presence out there, right? Um, I think maybe sometimes he's played too many minutes, and I think that was the problem. But again, you need to give him time, right? Uh, and not time to develop, but you need to just realize why the Blues got him, right? The Blues got him for a reason. And I think that at the end of the day, Torey Krug is one of those players where, he is aggressive. Um, y- but at the same time, he does have a skill. And I think that, he does have good offensive moves, right? Which we don't always talk about. Not the best two-way player, as I mentioned, but again, on the power play, that's his strong suit. And I think that, he's not going to get you those goals, right? We know that. But he is still one of the defensemen that can do quite well 5v4. So again, even strength, he's well when it comes to that too. He's good at drawing penalties. That's another thing too. He's been one of the top defensemen when it comes to drawing penalties as well. So with Boston, I feel like we saw more out of that. But he's getting older, so that's just one of the things. But I just want to kind of like mention that too, because there's been a lot of bias, right? We've seen just a lot of biasy towards Torey Krug, and I think that at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but this past season, he ranked 36 among all league defensemen when it came to total point, which is a top 10%, which is kind of a big deal. Um, you know, 32 penalty minutes is low, not bad at all that he had. And again, it's one of those things where, while, yeah, we got Torey Krug to replace Pietrangelo, which again is not an easy spot to fill, right? It's really not. And I think that's the problem too, is because of who he was replacing. He was like, oh, you're never going to be Alex. He knows that. Okay. It's a lot of pressure put on him. And I think the money factor didn't help either. I know I'm kind of ranting right now, but I'm kind of defending Torey Krug right now, but it had to be said. By the way, shameless promo. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Blues on YouTube, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Locked On Blues, and just, share some love with this podcast. It's a fun podcast. We talk Blues hockey all day, every day, so make sure to give the Locked On Blues some love. So finally, is Torey Krug that impactful? My answer is yeah. I would say yes. Not yeah, but yes. I think that, it's easy to kind of see the negative sometimes in players because we always see what they don't do rather than what they do. Dude. But he is one of those players that is a big body. He is smart. He has a good hockey IQ, which goes into play when he does have possession of the puck, whether he's drawing penalties. He is one of those players that I think is so underrated sometimes. And I can see the bad in him too. I can see that he isn't as fast. And I know that sometimes his positioning is really sloppy. And again, I'm not coming on here just to defend Torey Krug, but I am on here to defend the name a little bit. His days in Boston obviously were really, really good. I was sad to say fantastic, but they were really, really good. And I was happy that we got him. I was. Now, do I think he was the best replacement we could have gotten for Alex Pietrangelo? No. But I understand why they did. Is he overpaid? Yes. But at the end of the day, Torey Krug has given it all to his team here in St. Louis. He has. I mean, for a player to really be that strong about, hey, I'm not leaving, definitely shows that he cares about this organization, team, and you do see him put an effort on the ice. He's not like a lazy player, okay? I think that he probably has been in pain, and I know that's not an excuse. You're in the National Hockey League. I get it. Hockey guys are tough, but I think that without saying it, he probably did experience pain this last season physically, which brings me to my point. Is he that impactful on the ice? I think yes. And I know I just said that 2 minutes ago. But think about the question that I'm asking you. His impact on the ice. You're not going to have a guy that has big of a build as Torey Krug does. Think about the physical impact that he brings onto other players when they come into the Blues' defensive zone. And you're not going to see that out of many players. He's so physical. The drawing penalties. Again, these are all things between you and I that can't be taught. I mean, they can be taught, but this comes so naturally for Torey Krug. And I do believe without him, the Blues are going to feel it. You are going to feel the impact of him not being on the ice. It's easy to say on paper, oh, well, finally 55 is gone. You're going to notice it. Another thing too is, this end of the season, beginning of off season, there was rumors, the Bruins are going to try to get back Torey Krug. I highly doubt that. I doubt that was like a legit thing. I think that was just rumors, people speculating because they didn't want him on the team. Torey Krug wants to finish his career out here in St. Louis. And right now, what he's going through is probably very scary for him, his family. It's his health, right? It's his life and his health. So on that note, I'm wishing nothing but a speedy recovery for number 55, one of my favorites. I know, probably not your favorite, but one of my favorites, Mr. Torey Krug. And like always, let's go Blues.